Alright guys, this should be a quick video, but I do want to touch base on the last 2 points of the DBQ rubric real quick. So we've talked about intro, thesis, claim. We've talked about the body, evidence, and analysis, part 1 and 2. So now we're going to look at the extra evidence closing, and then we're also going to talk about complexity, the ever elusive complexity. First though, let's look at the extra evidence. So extra evidence should be a part of your final paragraph, right? After you've done your 2 body parts, you're coming in, and what it is, and so let's look at what the rubric actually says. Uses at least one additional piece of the specific historical evidence beyond that found in the documents relevant to an argument about the prompt. To earn this point, the response must describe the evidence and must use more than a phrase or reference. This additional piece of evidence must be different from the evidence used to earn the point for contextualization. So here's what's important with this, right? You need to have any evidence that actually though needs to be relevant to the prompt. You can't just say, oh yeah, something else was happening in the world at this time. If it's irrelevant, it doesn't matter, right? Like it has to be relevant to the prompt. And then one thing and then also it cannot be part of your contextualization, right? It can't be something that you've used somewhere else in your essay, right? So it needs to be something on its own. Now, it introduces any piece of evidence that either supports or refutes one of their claims, but refutes helps with complexity. So this is an important thing of note, right? You need to, one of the things that's useful is that if you actually use it, the opposite historical claim, so, right? If you use it to refute a claim, and that shows that you're able to see both sides of it, so it adds to the complexity. Remember, all the way back to your thesis, you have although X, right? So again, what it could be is something in support of X, right? You could provide some evidence of X, but it doesn't want to be anything that you've already mentioned before in your contextualization, right? So it need to be outside, but it could be something that supports X or supports something else in one of your claims, right? But you want that complexity there. It's an easy point to grab as long as you've got it. Make sure you are really clear. Again, you could prompt the sentence and say, evidence beyond these documents shows this, or an argument for evidence beyond these documents, right? Being very specific and clear will help your reader or grader. So then we have the ever elusive complexity. All right. Apparently at this point, everything I've seen and read, it means it's really hard to get. So one of the key things here, the very key point of the complexity, is it must be found throughout, right? And they are cracking down on that. I guess originally you could just kind of pick one of these and then add it into your paragraph at the end and chalk that point up, but it actually has to be found throughout your whole paper. The point, the way it says here in the rubric, demonstrates a complex understanding of the historical development that is the focus of the prompt, using evidence to corroborate, qualify, or modify an argument. So there's a number of different ways you can do this, right? Explaining nuance, explaining both similarity and differences. Really, if you go through this, what they're really looking for is, can you explain both sides, right? Do you have depth in there? But then you also need to add it in throughout your prompt, throughout your essay, I mean. And so being mindful of that as you go through, explaining relevant and insightful connections within and across periods, all of that, right, can be interwoven through it. But you need to make sure that it's found throughout, and that the easiest way to do it is by showing both sides. All right. I hope this helps narrow it down for you a little bit as well with these last 2 points. Good luck on your DBQ, everybody.